Hi, I'm Allison Marinelli, and today I'm speaking to Scott Gerber about why you never need to get a real job.
A good entrepreneur is someone who recognizes their weaknesses and can help to partner and find others that can fill in those weaknesses with their strengths.
Thanks so much for being here today, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
So, Scott, you have a lot of things on the go. You're the founder of the Young Entrepreneur Council and of Gen Y. You're an internationally syndicated columnist, and now you're an author. So it's pretty evident that your passion lies in entrepreneurship. But was it always the industry you wanted to get into?
So basically about 10 years ago when I was in college, I started my first business without any possible education or understanding about entrepreneurship in general. And figured out how to hustle my way to making tens of thousands of dollars a month, but basically had it all catch up with me when I failed miserably, bankrupted the company because I didn't know what the heck it was that I was doing, had no real education or mentors or any like-minded peers of any kind. And so a week before graduation, company gets bankrupted. I all of a sudden have to say, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with my life? My real job parents who had never been entrepreneurs in their lives said, okay, well, now it's time to validate that diploma. I basically said, no way in hell, and decided then to go and take all of those various lessons learned and start my next business while writing about the experience of being a young entrepreneur in the trenches for various media outlets. And that was sort of the beginning of ultimately what became various successful businesses that I've created over the years.
And you haven't looked back since?
Have not looked back since and have never worked for anybody else in my life.
All right, so not everyone has the risk or tolerance to never get a real job and dive in and be an entrepreneur. So what kind of personality do you think is best suited for entrepreneurship?
Sure. I mean, listen, I've met introverts, I've met extroverts, and everything in between. The fact is there is no one specific, skill set. I mean, some of my friends in the entrepreneur world, take Alexis Ohanian of Reddit. Here's a guy who basically had no coding skills and yet managed to help create and curate one of the most trafficked websites now in the world, Reddit. So, it really just depends on what you're looking to do. I believe personally that a good entrepreneur is someone who recognizes their weaknesses and can help to partner and find others that can fill in those weaknesses with their strengths of the others. So I really think that, there's something to be said about being either a great salesperson, or a great coder, or a great person who understands operations. But then knowing who else you need on the team to be more well-rounded, that's really, in my opinion, the best advice I ever got. Because the one thing I know is I am a great number one spokesperson or salesperson, business dev guy. But if I had to run my own company, I'd probably be working at a fast food restaurant right now.
So Scott, tell us about Generation Y.
So Gen Y Capital Partners is an early-stage venture capital firm that really leverages the power of the YEC, which is our organization of 500 of some of the world's most incredible entrepreneurs under the age of 40, and utilizes that network and its respective industry contacts, mentorship capabilities, and just outreach to be able to really invest in incredible up-and-coming ventures, mainly business-to-consumer, tech-enabled companies that we really feel can make significant change and really impact the day-to-day life of consumers. And so basically, we structured it, though, with a means towards, gearing it towards young entrepreneurs specifically, but also have some other things that we offer along with the actual capital. Things like we offer a certain amount of money towards federal student loan debt to pay down the amount of money that you basically are having to shell out every month for your federal student loans in the U.S., because we believe that those are the kinds of things that are barriers to people becoming entrepreneurs. We offer mentorship, as I mentioned earlier, and a number of other resources.
So what about the students who are, like you said, under student debt and don't have the capabilities of just dropping out of school? I'm sure that you don't recommend doing that for everyone. So what would you say to them if they're in school but they do have that urge to become an entrepreneur?
Sure. Well, a few things. I think you touched on something. What does the college equation mean anymore? I think it's a very personal decision. I don't think there's a generalization that fits. So I always say that you should make a personal choice on validating your college experience and education on a case-by-case basis to determine, is that really what you need at this stage in your life? Some people would say yes, some no. I would argue that the social experience I received being at NYU far surpassed the education I received, not because the education was bad, mind you, but just because of where I ended up going in my life. With that being said, though, I think that once you make that decision, if you stay in school, you certainly want to find like-minded peers who you can work with and partner with and figure out who you're going to be working with over the long run as you conceive of your idea. And there will be many ideas and iterations of your business. And then just get out there and start. I I hate business plan books. I think business planning should be a quick exercise and then iteration as you go, not some 9-month, 90-page process. And you just want to get out there and start. Learn to fail fast, and jump back. It's all about how fast you can come back from failure to make sure that you're learning from it.
What kind of things do you think people can learn from failure, and what can they take from their failures?
So I think the best thing I've ever learned from failure is that you should only ever fail the same way once. And if you failed the same way twice, that's a really big issue, and you should probably really think through why that happened. Failure is thrown around a lot in the startup space. Obviously, there's varying degrees of it. The fact of the matter is there's some folks out there that fail, like I did in college, let's say, where you literally fail and you have a couple $100 left to your name, and that's a whole other kind of failure. Then there's other ones where you fail to attract an audience, fail to attract a consumer base, fail to price your company correctly, and you have to iterate from those various ideas and figure out how to fix them and basically move forward either way. I think that there's ways to really learn about failure by just simply keeping track of what you've learned as you've gone ahead in your career, and just assessed it on an annual or quarterly basis. What's working, what's not. I always say if there's things that are working, accelerate those things as much as you can and scale them. If it's not working or not as good as it should be, either fix it or cut it mercilessly, because these are the kinds of things that'll help you stay lean and mean when you're building up your company.
So what kind of problems are you trying to solve with Gen Y and with the YEC?
I think that there is a major issue that's happened over the last several years when it comes to youth employment. The reality is we're at the lowest period in our collective history of record for employment when it comes to our young people. And that's not a trend that's going to go anywhere so fast or be on some big upswing, so all of a sudden we have mass employment for youth. The reality is the world has changed. Globalization, automation, recession, these things are playing a role. And I think that we either have to keep up with the times and change the dynamics of the workforce from an earlier age so that they can compete better, or we have to basically call it quits. Now, I'm not willing to do that. I do believe that there is a fundamental and tectonic shift going on that we've never seen before in the history of man, and that many things are because of technology and just shifts in how fast markets can be disrupted and companies can scale down. So I think what YEC tries to do is to empower this generation and figure out the ways, not just that the next billion-dollar businesses are going to be created, but how people can create a job to keep a job, and basically do something that if they can't go into the traditional workforce out of necessity and desperation, need a job, or are on the verge of underemploying themselves, that there are other opportunities that they can become self-sufficient. These are the kinds of things we need to be pushing to our young people, because if we don't, we truly will see a lost generation unlike we've ever seen before.
So lastly, Scott, what is the solution to this problem?
It's certainly not a single solution, that's for sure. This is a very complex issue made up of a lot of macro and micro issues. I think that there are many things. In the government sectors around the world, we have to find more ways, not just to say kill regulation, but figure out ways to empower entrepreneurs, both through educational opportunities and how we structure various different programs between government and educational institutions. We have to figure out ways to offer more incentives for the government to give young entrepreneurs to start businesses earlier. We have to find more innovative solutions to help solve the overwhelming crisis in the college student debt loan areas across the United States. That's sort of some of the stuff on the federal level. Crowdsourcing was a big win this year in the United States. There's some other like startup visa that we're trying to get through. So that's one area. On the educational front, frankly, I'm of personal belief, and I get hammered for this all the time, I think colleges need to keep up or shut down. I think that there needs to be a mass consolidation of poor programs that are not teaching our kids that if you're going to learn how to be a mechanic, you should also learn how to be an auto body shop owner. I think that there's something to be said about that. I think liberal arts degrees in this generation are fantastically nonsense and not worth the paper they're written on, and we have to have changes to the overall collegiate system. And again, we have to increase mentorship. We have to find different ways to solve this from, again, all angles. But the bottom line is it all stems with one key area, and that is pushing entrepreneurship on all fronts as a viable career path to our young people and changing the culture.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Scott. It was a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure. Same here.
For more information on Scott Gerber, visit Kidela.com.